Welcome to Aspen Square Affordable Housing. So whether you are a brand new hire to a tax credit property, or maybe you're a traveler or a current employee that is now going to be working at a tax credit property, we are super excited to have you and to create some of these training modules to help you understand the different types of paperwork and policies, procedures, and rules involved in the tax credit program. So for this particular exercise, I am just going to be talking about the paperwork and how to fill it out. That could be sometimes the most confusing part about this process, and so we're going to go piece by piece on the significantly different pieces of paperwork that we have for the tax credit program. Some of it you'll have seen before. Some of it intermixes with the regular stuff, but I'm going to kind of show you what we're really looking for from a tax credit perspective. So to get started, I want to show you the home of all of our paperwork. We have an affordable intranet through Aspen that we created and we're super excited about. This is where it is. If you're already an Aspenite, you're probably already used to looking at the regular Aspen intranet. If you're brand new, then this will all be new to you. Rather than using the regular intranet, we do have such specific paperwork for our properties, and it can vary from property to property, state to state. So for that reason, we have this home here. This is where we really ask that you make sure you get all of your paperwork from. The changes that we make to the paperwork on a routine basis are instant, so you can always feel very confident that you have the correct paperwork if you come to this site and click on your property. So I'm just going to kind of give you an example here very quickly. So this is a property that we have down in South Carolina called Bluffton House, and here we have all of our links. So if you click on the application paperwork link, you'll see that everything that they use for their application is here, and they are guaranteed to be using the most current form if they use this website. I know that we get into the habit a lot of times on our properties of printing out forms and keeping them in drawers so that they're very accessible. That is something that we ask you not to do on a tax credit property, just because there are very important changes that happen all the time to the paperwork that can really, really cause us some major issues if we're using old forms. So we are going to have an entire tutorial on this particular intranet, and I'm not going to go any further here on this one because today we just are actually talking about the specific paperwork only. So I am going to move right along and open up the first thing that I'd like to talk about. All right, so this is our compliance review, approval, and move-in checklist. Every property has one that is specific to that property. And this is everything that they are going to want to see on your approval files. Your recertifications have their own checklist, and your AEC recertifications also have their own checklist. Just because it's different paperwork that's involved, all of this is available on the intranet. So for this particular exercise, we're going to use our fictitious property, Candyland. We named it Taxopolis Metropolis here, and that's just so that we can, play around with some different files without having to go into a real property. We can use our Candyland software, which you will have access to, and you're actually going to have the opportunity to process the entire file yourself of Gumbear. So you'll get to know him very well. He's a great applicant. So starting with this checklist, after you fill out the top, which is very self-explanatory, I just want to point out that everything is listed in a very particular order. It's not just because it's random and we decided that's where we want it. It really does have rhyme or reason. These compliance ladies work so hard, and they have to index each and every one of these pieces of paper in case we need it at a later date, in case something were to happen to the file, if it went missing, or if there was any kind of emergency flood or fire or something like that. We would have access to everything that we need. So please just do them a courtesy and make sure that as you're sending these in send them in the order that is listed on this checklist. It makes their life super, super fast and easy. Okay, so the next thing I want to point out, and we'll be going over each and every one of these forms, so I'm not going to talk about them right here. What I want to show you on this checklist is there is an approval, and there is a first submission, and there is a correction and signature. So you're going to be doing several different things with this file. The first one is for approval. So you're going to send each and every one of these in order to compliance with this checklist, and that is for approval for Gum Bear to move in. This needs to be signed by 2 people. The reason for that is just a second set of eyes really helps us out. By the time this gets to compliance, you can imagine how many of these files that they look at. They are trying to turn these around same day or next day at the very, very latest, so that you can make sure that you get your move-ins in a timely manner. So please just have a second set of eyes. It always helps. You know, somebody else might catch something really small like a missing signature or a missing date, and you guys can hurry and make sure that that happens before compliance has to take the time to write it up. All right, so the second submission, I guess it's called the first submission. After approval, your first submission is to resend the entire file again to compliance with your rent receipt and your lease. For this particular property, other properties might have 1 or 2 extra things. For our fictitious property, that's all we're asking for here. So when you send it, even though you've already sent all of these documents prior, you do need to resend the entire package again, and also include your Aspen approval sheet so that they can see what it is that they wrote up on the approval. And then you also need to indicate if there was a correction done. So when they take a look at the approval, they might have said, you know what, you missed a date on your race forms. So when you send this back with everything else, you're going to put an X there on the race forms to indicate that that form has changed. That way they're going to take this and pull the old form and replace it with your new form. Let's say there was also something missing on your under 5,000 form that they needed, and you're going to also indicate that that has been taken care of. So that is how that form works. Your approval and then your first submission. This particular document is not kept in your file. It is shredded after move-in, and after everything's approved and corrected and signed, it's shredded. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next form.